I stood by the shore and I said what I thought about Kudankulam near our homes. I spoke of fish and children at night. They said I was speaking against the state. I was not asking for anything grand. I only asked what came from that plant. They called it sedition for saying those things. Did I sell secrets to Pakistan? Did I sell secrets to Pakistan? Or did I say too much? If nuclear is so clean and safe, why call my worry sedition? Did I sell secrets to Pakistan? Or did I step out of place? If nuclear is so clean and safe, why answer me with handcuffs? They spoke of progress, they spoke of pride. They spoke as if nuclear was care. I spoke of water, boats and nets. They answered like I should not be there. Now I am wiser, now I am calmer. Now I repeat what they told me is true. If someone gets sick, it must be something else. Nuclear saves lives, or so they say. Did I sell secrets to Pakistan? Or did I say too much? If nuclear is so clean and safe, why call my worry sedition? Did I sell secrets to Pakistan? Or did I step out of place? If nuclear is so clean and safe.
Looks like I smurfed up. That's known to happen. Excuse me. We can probably figure out where this song left off.
Did I sell secrets to Pakistan? Or did I step out of place? If nuclear is so clean and safe, why charge me and put me in handcuffs? Now I get it, now I understand. Nuclear is clean. Now I get it, now I understand. It was only me. Now I get it, now I understand. I was making trouble then. Nuclear is kind and clean. That's what I say now here. Did I sell secrets to Pakistan? I only spoke of our shores. If nuclear is so clean and safe, why am I quieter now? Did I sell secrets to Pakistan? I only asked what it means. of a future built on nuclear. I say that nuclear is clean.
Poor bastard. 6,000 people were charged with sedition. That's what that song is about. Wrap your mind around that statement. For protesting a nuclear power plant. Canada just designated nuclear repositories as a national interest. And so if you speak out against that, that's definitely sedition. But imagine 6,000 people. It was actually 10,000 people, but the story... You have to actually, like, when we start off these presentations, I cough sometimes, right? But I think that's a trigger for my body, because you're going to talk for 2 hours, say, typically, right? So try talking for 2 hours. Wrap your mind around that statement. And then you're going to do it live. And you're not going to make any Freudian slips. You're talking about nuclear, and you're not going to make any... You're not allowed to make any mistakes. That picture there is a grey whale. And we're seeing a lot of this, but that's the extreme end of this paradigm that we've never seen pre-Fukushima. So why am I invoking Fukushima in these die-offs? I'll walk you through that first, because there's so many people who don't have any concept of nuclear. They're not able to, you don't have a foundation to work with. And makes it very difficult to appreciate the enormity of and the complexity of this question. Did Fukushima had an adverse effect on the food chain, the biodiversity, the species by proxy? Hello, everybody. Apparently I'm getting stupid. What have I got done now? Bear with me. There we go. Think I can figure this out. Fukushima bioaccumulations turns whales radioactive. Must whale carcasses be treated as nuclear waste? And the answer is unequivocally yes. In 2013, they were expecting whales to bioaccumulate, the killer whales, say, for instance, not counting all the other whales, 1,000 atoms of cesium, gamma, per kilogram. And a killer whale is a pretty big animal. So per kilogram, we're talking about a huge bioaccumulation. Radiation in the Pacific Ocean. Model was based on Germany institution with TEPCO's official numbers that excluded the actual radioactive fallout from the reactors. And I'll just run you right through that in a moment. There was 7,000 whales of humpbacks. There was double that in grey whales. We're seeing symmetrically right across the species. We're seeing it right across all the species. So these are all thumbnails from presentations of the emaciated whales. And what you're looking at is all the species worldwide, everywhere worldwide, showing up in death stage, end of life stage, starvation stage, emaciation, where there's no muscles, no blubber. There's a little bit of muscles, a bit of meat, obviously, right? But the bulk of it, 9/10 of it is missing for most of it. All of these examples are 7 to 9/10 of the animal is missing from starvation. They cannibalized all their resources, all the blubber, any fat, any meat, any muscles. And then a final death stage is the skin, right? The skin was cannibalized. And that's really evident in these pictures because you can see how the skin, it's like a wet blanket is the only way I can describe it on the animals. Because it should stretch because of natural movements and everything else, right? But because the skin is so thin, it doesn't have its integrity anymore. And so we're seeing this with all the species. These are all emblematic, and these are all presentations we've done in the last 6-7 months. And as every species worldwide, now the gray whales in particular are getting all attention because they're almost gone. And we assume at best there's around 2,000. Most likely it's around 600 or less. The reality of it is, from what we're seeing, the starvation, there will be none left at the end of this year. And because this is a trending, this has been happening for quite a few years post-Fukushima, and the severity is worse every year. And now we're at this stage here. So this year in May 22nd, there was officially 122 just gray whales only species, Washington, California, San Francisco, and United States coastline, which on a typical scale of healthy animals, not emaciated animals, but healthy animals, would be for every one you're finding, 10 you didn't find sank at sea or washed up in a place where humans are not too, right? And then typically they would have been broken down by the birds of prey, by foragers, by crabs, you name it. It would have been like 30,000 insects taking advantage of the skeleton up high and dry. We're not seeing that at all. And so Fukushima gets invoked because of its... Now, it's not just... And just to give you more context, in 2023, they were talking about the whales were so emaciated and how in 2022 they were noticing the same thing. But 2023, last year, right, they were alarmed to see groups, large groups, which is, they all eat the same food at the same time on the same migratory route. And so you can't have some showing up healthy and the rest of them emaciated. It has to be symmetrical because they all eat the same food. And because it takes so long to become emaciated, if there was enough food to keep other whales sustaining health, then the emaciated whales would have had the same opportunity too. So last year, researchers learned to see large groups looking emaciated, malnourished, which is emaciated, starving, skinny, which is emaciation, with visible, when you can see the ribs, the vertebrae, and the backbones, that's emaciation. Now, even with 4 inches of blubber, it's considered emaciation, but we're not even seeing that. And so the trend clearly, and these blue whales, in particular pygmy blue whales, are about 90 feet at an adult, and the pygmy blue, and the blue whale, the biggest one in the world, just the same family tree, is up to 110 feet and 400,000 pounds. The pygmies will get up close to 300,000 pounds, 90 plus feet. They're showing up, all of them, emaciated. So it was all those pictures I was just showing you, etc., etc. And then stories. We cover so much here. We'll talk about Fukushima. So this was the French government had put out, based upon a spike in North America of 1 million to 10 million atoms per cubic meter of air of cesium-137. This was based on 23 days after Fukushima. So 23 days after the tsunami, 23 days after the wood chipper took out 1,200 miles of the coastline. 1,200 miles of the coastline was scrubbed. And there was a debris field a year later in the Pacific the size of Texas, 2,000 square miles of debris. Allegedly with radioactive sumo wrestlers dead and bloated on top of them. A common theme with the die-offs is there's no predation, no birds, no insects, nothing, no predator, which means we are in real trouble post-Fukushima. Reactor 1, Reactor 2, there's 4 reactors of the apocalypse. Reactor 3 and Reactor 4. Now, they're very highly visible. It's easy to say, okay, well, they're gone, right? Well, not so quick, because officially they're not gone. Officially, that didn't happen. But 1 and 2 did. Can't make it up if you wanted to. So that is a 150-foot wide by 150 feet and 190-foot tall building. So it's very deceptive to look at. Right, the context is easily to be missed without the more insight. At the top of the buildings was 9 reactor cores, counting the running reactor core. That's what the production, the storage over 30 years would have been double that. So we're going to lowball the number and say each building had 8 to 9 reactor cores. I go with 9. And once you lose, this is 4 reactors, 1, 2, 3, and 4 in a row over 6 days, have lost all their inventories, which is 36 reactor cores, which is equal to almost 4,000 Chernobyls. Chernobyl was massive, but it was a graphite reactor, it was a small reactor, it was a new reactor. These are pure uranium, pure plutonium reactors. These are massive reactor cores, and there's decades of them. Now, Chernobyl, they closed 9,400 farms in Ireland, Scotland, United Kingdom, almost up to 3,000 kilometers away, which meant all of Europe should have been closed, not just the sheep farms. Imagine closing 9,400 sheep farms because of radioactive fallout, and the population is so complacent that nobody thought for 2 seconds to ask the question of, does radiation only land on sheep farms? What about our drinking water? So the worst thing about the equation is, like, when your drinking water is contaminated with radioactive fallout, your filtration systems quickly become incredibly radioactive. You can't get rid of the sediment from your water filtration facilities because it's so radioactive. But yet you're still drinking the water because of blind faith that the people you hired to do a job didn't take over your country and hate your guts. Reactor 3 in particular was a plutonium mixed oxide reactor. These are different animals altogether. This is reclaimed uranium plutonium, which shouldn't exist. And then the emissions coming from a plutonium mixed oxide fuel pool have never been defined. The biggest byproduct from the fuel pools of the other reactors are curium isotopes. I hate to think of what's coming out of the plutonium mixed oxide fuel pools, which are decades old, and they're splitting atoms for millions of homes and businesses. It's absurd that we're still having this conversation instead of being gone to war against this industry. Reactor 3 detonated blatantly. There was only a stump left of Reactor 3 and a stump left of Reactor 4, but officially that never happened. They put contraptions over, they built off-site and reassembled them, disposing of hundreds of homeless and destitute and victims of society and the immigrants who don't speak the language to carry out that deception so that they can then pretend that they're at the top of these buildings that don't exist and all the fuel is coming out of the pool. So every university, every media on the planet had to participate in that lie for that lie to work. Don't worry, I'm the crazy guy. I just happen to work it out. Not much to it. Just deal with the facts and everything comes together real simple. I believe the country would be evacuated if number 4 fuel pool collapsed. Should be hundreds of thousands of people working furiously every day. And that's the building over there in 2013. The story is 2012, but it was already... They were tearing it down to that already at that point. What was that? Yeah, so it did probably look just like that in 2000 at that time. Fukushima was a massive earthquake. They built the reactors on the tectonic plates 70 kilometers away. which is building it onto tectonic plates, which is your two plates. And the tectonic plates, when they displace, water displaces with it. So when the continental shelf drops down, that displaces a huge area. And so the water has to fill in that void. That creates the tsunami. It comes to shore at 600 plus miles per hour. As it starts to slow down to 300-400 miles per hour, it rises up. When it's going through the communities, you're still traveling at 140 miles per hour or more, 170. And it's like a tornado will tear apart a building. The water will have the same attribute, but much more significant. The red are people that died, the yellow were people that are missing the numbers. You can see the nuclear plants on these tectonic plates. And on the other side where those nuclear plants are concentrated in the Sea of Japan towards North Korea, South Korea, and Russia, is another set of plates that ruptured in 2024 on January the 1st. And these were dormant, so-called dormant plates. But of course, plates can never be dormant because your continents are shifting. But in the scale of humanity, I guess, you could frame it that way. This was one of the immediate heat signatures of all four reactors. Reactor 2 in particular, is the only building that stayed intact, is the hottest looking building because everything burned for a week straight. There was explosions and fires. And that building, these are massive buildings, incredibly reinforced. It's hard to comprehend. But just the pillars that are the foundation of the building, like the floors and the walls, you can actually turn an SUV around on those things. That's how big they actually are. And they're meant to take these hydrogen explosions, but the explosions in Fukushima were not hydrogen per se, even though hydrogen was present. The explosions was from pressure, because the reactors need 6,450,000 gallons of water a minute. A day. It needs 1 million gallons a minute. And that's to keep it cool, because these were running reactors on top of that. So the reactor heats up very quickly. It needs 1 million gallons, 4,500 tons a minute. It needs 4,500 one-ton pickup trucks a minute going past your front door every minute. 24 hours a day. You can never cross the street or anybody else. Think about that. It needs 70 one-ton pickup trucks, each pickup truck with 1,000 liters. It needs 70 one-ton pickup trucks a second. So if they don't get the water, what happens? They heat up. And they're already at, say, 1,000 pounds per square inch. So how long does it take it before it tears itself apart? And what kind of explosion would you expect to see in that? Well, this is it here. Unit 1 and 2 exhaust stacks had high radiation levels. The exhaust stacks, you can see the white one behind me. That's one of the exhaust stacks. See, there's another one over there behind that half stupid looking reactor 3 circle. I can't learn about Fukushima and the whales without learning about Fukushima, right? It won't take very long. But we'll definitely get you up to speed here in a second. So that stack, it was actually 25 sieverts at the base. Hang on. So the base of this stack, which is the vent for the fuel pools that don't exist. Now look at these buildings. Look at reactor 4. Right? See the debris? But inside of it's supposed to be beautiful, right? But look outside the building. Look on the roof of the turbine building. They didn't clean any of that up, right? None of that got cleaned up. But yet here they are, they're 100 feet above the building in that section up there. So there's a lot of deception, and in order for the story for this kind of story to work, all your medias had to participate in the lie. There couldn't be no dissenting voices. And then that way it doesn't blow back on ABC Cecilia Vega or CNN Anna Karin or CBS Seth Dorn, the senator's son, no less, or, which is the biggest media in North America and the biggest media in Europe, BBC, Rupert Winfield Hayes. This is just a fraction of media that done this. They all ran this story in these pictures. And so at the top section up there is where they're claiming to be. Above that, looking down. It's a very complicated story if you don't understand these minutiae, these details of the details of the details. So these 10 sieverts is a lethal dose in just a couple of minutes. Even if you run away, your organs will continue to melt, and on that day or that night you're going to die. But 10 minutes there, you're going to die. 16,000 workers quit because they were watching people drop dead. They didn't quit. They were the homeless and the destitute and the victims of society, the immigrants who don't speak the language, and they were thrown away like paper towels. Like me, paper towel. I think we fooled them, though, didn't we? I think we won the battle. There is no nuclear renaissance. There's nuclear desperation, but there's no nuclear renaissance. They have all the cards. I mean, they got all the media pretending they're on top of a building. That's some serious power. They got all the universities participating in the lie, the schools of mass destruction, I mean. That's what your university is, a school of mass destruction. So chlorine dioxide, mixed water, fresh batch, as they always are, and with a spoonful of lemon juice. So when you look at this reactor 4, this never happened. It never happened. So it's okay to call me a piece of shit, a liar and a scam artist, a scumbag. It's okay. Don't feel bad doing that. It never happened. I'm a liar. I'm a scumbag. Arnie's a pretty good guy, though, and Megan Gunnarson's a pretty good guy. And that's the official picture over there, and this is the official picture right here. Which one is real? Arnie says it's that one. I think it's this one. I'm not trying to be argumentative or problematic or hard to get along with. Maybe a little bit. So if they're 150 feet above that building over there, why would they do that? Is it because of an extinction event? And the nuclear industry captured your media and universities during the Manhattan projects and have just destroyed it ever since on top of it. Inhaling just one hot particle causes cancer. And the average person in Seattle was breathing in 10 hot radioactive particles a day. So there's two different stories that are kind of important. Here's another one to think about. Radiation levels spiked. Always got to be hard to get along with. Hang on. Radiation, that's not what I wanted. Radiation levels in the United States West Coast spiked to over 1 million times normal after Fukushima explosion. So it's spiked. It's spiked. And this is what it looked like at day 23. She's pretty. Extreme increase in mortality caused by cardiac diseases in Fukushima. The death rates were up 12.5% in just a single month. This picture is really interesting. Is These are full tanks of sludge, which means you're talking about hundreds of thousands of sieverts. So there's no way you can walk around there with a paper suit on. So they're empty. There's Chernobyl. Now, I'm not saying, I never said for a second Chernobyl wasn't horrible. But it's nothing compared to Fukushima. And Chernobyl was horrible. Chernobyl, just because it was a graphite reactor, it was a new reactor, and it was a small reactor, didn't denigrate its harm. And so what they done after Chernobyl, I'll just give you a visual, because you need to understand that they done the same thing for Fukushima, but it wasn't. Most of it was locked up behind paywalls at Elsevier, Springer, and Wiley, 3 biggest journals on the planet. Wait for it. This is meant to, because we're doing a lot of these shows on dead whales, and I'm not really, there's a lot of new people come through and they're starting to pay attention, but they don't understand the bigger picture yet of radiation. So after nuclear action, the first studies you're going to do is, there's a lot, but the first major studies you're going to see in all different places is autism and Down syndrome. So they're going to study the newborn fetuses intently too. And even if they don't want to be studied, they're going to study them. But on top of that, they study every facet of the ecosystem. I'm just going to walk you through that so you can appreciate where it ended up everywhere, and they needed to downplay it everywhere. So they had to do a study on everything because everything was contaminated. And to protect themselves, they needed to be able to pull a genie out of the hat, so they had to study for everything. Multiple institutions too. And you paid for it. Taxpayers paid for it, so they can blame it away. And some of them did, but 99.9% did. I'm just going to run you through some of this so you can appreciate. They study everything in the ecosystem. When I say that to you, it's hard to really, like they've studied every organ in every species after Chernobyl, for instance. They studied every plant, every flower, every tree, every species in that ecosystem. They studied it from many different institutions to quantify the analysis. So evaluation of cesium activities in plant drugs. And so the cesium, and let's put that, it's complicated, so bear with me. Actually, it's a really good show today for you if you're trying to learn about radioactive fallout and what the hell is the issue? Why is it an issue? So this is a study from the Loveless Respiratory Research Institute, which is the United States Navy in New Mexico, Albuquerque. And they specialize in beagle dogs and beagle puppies. 144 in this particular study, Dr. Raymond Gilmade, one of the lead authors at the United States Navy Research Institute. It's a respiratory, but they killed beagle dogs and monkeys. Bone tumors in 93 dogs were the most common cause of death. They all died. So tumors, lung, skeleton, liver, and deaths from the radiation started 1.5 years after. The problem with the study is at the bottom of it, they'll say findings in dogs suggest similar dose-related biological effects could be expected in humans. But the problem was humans are 50 times less efficient than the animal is at removing plutonium with their kidneys from their system, which means you're 50 times more vulnerable, not 50%. And the bigger problem, the same institution, Loveless Respiratory Research Institute in New Mexico, the United States Navy, has asserted that curium isotopes are a major byproduct in the radioactive nuclear fuel rods that are in your fuel pools. You have 1,000 fuel pools, every reactor has 2. And every reactor core that goes in there is still splitting atoms for 1 million homes and businesses forever. And that's what makes fuel dangerous. Not because it's so hot, no one's going to go near it, and you can't anyway, you're protected from it. In that context of getting close to it and accidentally. The problem is the splitting atoms, though atoms can't be contained or released directly into your environment. And every nuclear plant except for a couple is surrounded by farms. So forget the alpha-emitting radionuclide inventories. Curium isotopes are the major byproducts in irradiated nuclear fuel. Curium isotopes. So curium isotopes, lead shielding for plutonium is 0.01 inch. For curium, it's 2 inches. And curium isotopes are the major byproduct of the radioactive fuel rod. Not plutonium, but plutonium killed all the animals with multiple tumors. And this needs lead shielding 20 times thicker, curium, 20 times thicker than you do for plutonium, which is 2 inches instead of 0.1 inch, 1/10 of an inch. Okay, back to Chernobyl. Don't worry, it's worth your time. So Chernobyl, when you talk about cesium, the biggest byproduct of the radioactive fuel rod is curium isotopes. Let me just copy this so I can paste it when I bring it up. 75, the World Health Organization some of these pictures get screwed up for some reason. The World Health, anyway, the story is officials sharply raised radiation levels for residents to get iodine pills after the nuclear meltdown in Japan, 75 times higher than the people who got us here in the first place in all this trouble. World Health Organization, which is United Nations. So talk about Chernobyl. When you see cesium and iodine or any other isotope, the biggest byproduct is curium isotopes, not none of these. So the fact they found is, whatever they found here is going to be many more curium isotopes in the same sample. It needs lead shielding 20 times thicker than plutonium. Don't forget that facet. And that's true for none of the species on the planet has an autoimmune trigger to defend against it. So transfers, I'm not going to read all these, but I'm just going to start flashing to it. I want you to see, like they studied the honey and pollen. They studied radio contamination data collected in Italy. So Italy was agricultural countermeasures. You can't countermeasure anthropogenic man-made radioactive fallout. Like, you can't displace it. And what they're claiming is they put potassium there, and so the plant doesn't suck up the radiation, only sucks up the potassium. The problem with that is that the man-made elements are exactly identical to the species functions as natural stuff. Your species can't tell the difference, right? So potassium can't displace any radiation, period. It's absurd. It's an absolute fraud. It's criminal to suggest it can. It's not even voodoo. It's not even based on some thousands of year old practices. It's fake. Okay, that's important. But they need to downplay everything of the ecosystem, and then they wanted to grow food and sell it worldwide. Now, Europe, Asia, or Ukraine was the breadbasket for wheat worldwide. And it's a nuclear wasteland. This industry has been after trying to wipe you out, and they dumb down the current generations with SpongeBob and the Simpsons and the Hulk and Spider-Man. And people actually go out and buy Hulk and Spider-Man book bags and pillowcases and jackets and T-shirts and Simpsons and stuff like that, SpongeBob, and makes it more MK Ultra than you can count. Agricultural countermeasure. There is no agricultural countermeasure for anthropogenic man-made radiation. And I can't challenge every one of these narratives because, well, I can. Make no mistake about it. That's one thing I can do. That is what we do. We challenge laws. But you can't do it all because you'll be here for 12, 14 hours to get through the little tiny piece that I got there. Anyway. Agricultural countermeasures. We'll get there, don't worry. You have to know these nuances to really comprehend the enormity of the story we're talking about. We're talking about an extinction event and how they done it. And I can give you all the information of what's happening, but not telling you and explain to you, and these nuances is not acceptable. So, a nuclear power plant has fuel pools. The fuel pools are hemorrhaging radiation all the time. Almost all nuclear plants are surrounded by farms. And then, so in order to downplay it, they've done studies on all of these areas, and they say it's not bad. But they acknowledge that the plants will uptake the radiation, like grapes have been known to uptake cesium and strontium, despite the fact that the biggest byproduct of the radioactive fuel rod is curium isotopes, right? Ignore that, like they're doing. Strawberries, grapes, all accumulation of radionuclides by plants is a monitoring system. So they're acknowledging no matter how much countermeasures you might have, you can't stop the plants from uptaking. All nuclear power plants are hemorrhaging radiation. Tomatoes, potatoes, there's no end to the plants, right? Fruit trees, they're all been documented sucking up radiation. And so that's the best place to put farms is right by a nuclear plant if you want to poison everybody in the supermarkets worldwide. That's the perfect thing to do. Right? They know exactly. And so the suggestion that countermeasures like potassium has any hope whatsoever is criminal. If you took them to court, their whole world falls apart. Cesium, or Chernobyl fault detected in BC. Chernobyl cesium, again, retentions in the water column of lakes in the English Lake District, United Kingdom, 2 years to 4 years after disposition. So they used that to downplay their own meltdown at Windscale in 1959. Or 57, was it? Yeah, 57. 55 was Chalk River. 59 was Santa Susana, 460 times more fallout than 3 Miles Island. 57 was Windscale and Moyak. All the nuclear testing was going on at the same time. Transport of iodine through the grass cow milk pathway, United States, so thousands of miles away. All of this stuff is thousands of miles away. Environmental monitoring, British nuclear fuel following Chernobyl in the United Kingdom, right? So all of these isotopes, the biggest byproduct of the radioactive fuel rod is your curium isotopes, which need lead shielding 20 times thicker than you do for plutonium. And if you got any one isotope, you're going to find all the others, particularly the curium isotope. So they studied every facet. Now let's just burn through it. They studied every facet of the ecosystem so they can downplay it. And they found it everywhere. Pregnancy outcome in Sweden. We have a whole folder marching across Europe and that stuff. Contamination of Austria soil and the perch in the Swiss lakes were contaminated. For 30 years, they closed freshwater fisheries down in Sweden. Transports of cesium, americium, plutonium isotopes in the Baltic Sea, which happens to be where the grey whales are famously not feeding from anymore. Chernobyl fallout in Finland, hot areas in Finland. So they studied every facet on top of that of the ecosystem in order to downplay it. And they found it everywhere they looked. And they get money to look anywhere for anthropogenic man-made radioactive fallout because it's everywhere. As long as you're going to downplay it and not mention anything embarrassing for the industry. They'll be happy to have the data and lock it up behind a paywall at the biggest journals on the planet who get it for free. And unless you're a student, you can't get access to it. And a lot of these just the science directory of one of Elsevier journals, and they have Elsevier, Springer and Wally have 20,000 journals. Just one of those journals where they keep these academic studies locked behind paywalls, you have to spend $50,000 just to peruse the index for the science section, so to speak. $50,000 just to get a look around. That's not access to it. Doing basically the same thing as I'm doing right here. You'd be surprised what your subconscious can take away from constant exposure to this stuff. You start realizing, first off, they studied everything on the planet and found it there. And that there's nothing on the planet with an autoimmune trigger that can defend against it. But this doesn't do it justice and it gives you context of Chernobyl. It gives you context of Chernobyl. And just let me bring in another little splash so you can appreciate how deep oh, might as well go down this route, seeing as we're right here. So the industry is insane. It controls all your hospitals. Have you ever heard of radiation therapy? Introduction to radiation injury, another silent epidemic, an extinction machine. They do it to animals first. Reduced radiation-induced injuries to the visual pathway. Radiation-induced injuries to your eyeball and the whole system. Cardiac injuries from treatments of breast cancer from radiation. Radiation-induced cardiac injuries. Radiation-induced kidney injuries. Hypoxia from radiation. Blood spinal cord barrier disruption, central nervous system radiation injuries. That's what they're doing to your loved ones in the hospital. So they give them radiation. Oh, we can give you radiation therapy. In Canada, the government will give you $900,000 worth. It's just enough to finish off. They'll send you home. So your family has to liquidate their assets to give you some comfort for the last couple of weeks. This whole system is set up and it's brutal. Radiation-induced lung injuries. Is there anything radiation doesn't destroy? Radiation-induced bowel injuries. This is all radiation therapy. Get radiation therapy and get 6 or 7 different radiation injuries. Radiation-induced kidney injuries. Breast radiation litigation because they've done it on purpose. So they can do the surgery later and make another $10,000 for their summer vacations. Central nervous system radiation injuries. Your hospitals are carrying out a genocide. There is no cure with radiation. It's just, and the radiation injuries are catastrophic injuries, insults to your body that are injury to the cranial nerves and or nucleoid following proton beam therapy. This is not radiation therapy. This is radiation extermination. Radiation injuries to the head and the neck for radiation therapy. Radiation-induced brain injuries assessments. It's shocking, all of this stuff. Radiation-induced regional lung injuries, small bowels, radiation injuries. Now they know that all of this is going to happen because they study all the species. If all the species are getting irradiated, do you really think you're not? It's like the British were so gullible, they stopped eating sheep meat from 9,400 farms because of radioactive fallout. They kept drinking the water and eating the food from the other farms that were just or worse as radioactive. They all switch and bait, and people fell for it and still do. Radiation-induced normal tissue injuries. There is no radiation therapy. There's radiation by 1,000 cuts, by 1,000. It's a radiation play once you stick this in your body. Radiation injury to the valves of your hearts. Patients with radiation-induced bowel injuries, radiation injury to the central nervous system, radiation rectal injuries, my favorite. Radiation lung injuries, glands, liver, bile duct. Are you starting to see the bigger picture yet? So what's happened to the whales? They're getting the same thing. Their whole body's being destroyed from the bioaccumulation. What happened to all the insects and birds and mammals and animals? The same thing. Their bodies, this is for 80 years, but Japan was a pulse event at 36 reactors, each equal to 100 plus Chernobyls, which is around 4,000 Chernobyl pulse event. And they successfully covered it up, as I showed you at the beginning. Brainstem injuries. Does this sound like radiation fucking therapy to you? Or does this sound like murder? Your hospitals are murdering you, and the nuclear industry has enabled it. The nuclear lobbying groups are at it everywhere worldwide, trying to infiltrate a country so they can do it there too. It's a genocide machine. It's a snuff machine. Radiation induced brain injuries. You wouldn't believe how much of that I actually got in a single folder. Different studies. So at what point do we say, well, this is probably a bad idea? Has that ever occurred to anybody that's doing these studies? Of course not. They're making a fortune. They're paying mortgages. They're taking summer vacations on cruise ships. They're flying to Disneyland. Their children are going to the best colleges. They have the best sports coach. They have the best musician coaches. All paid for by you, by bursaries from the nuclear industry, so they can raise their children to fill in their co-workers' positions down the road. Late radiation rectal injuries. So, like, when you see all of this stuff, how is it they don't know that it doesn't work? It doesn't work. It never worked. It has never worked. Okay. We'll get to the dead whales here sometime. We'll get there. We're getting there. I'm not finished yet. So there's one more facet I got to get you to appreciate. All right, this one, yeah, perfect. So you've seen all the radiation injuries from the radiation therapy, radiation murder. I'm sorry, therapy. No, murder. Okay. So then I want you to understand the nuances, the details of the details of the details of the details, the minutiae of the minutiae, that they actually understand about this. And this goes fast and I won't finish out and we'll get after whales. You need a foundation to appreciate how this destroys the body of the species, and no species is safe. No species has not only been triggered to defend against it. So the radiation atom, isotope that's in your body, pulses energy every second, symmetrical, like an explosion. And everything it comes in contact or runs through, it splits open cells and DNA and chromosomes, etc., etc. Permanent lesions to your organs. So by splitting all these atoms and cells and DNA and chromosomes in your body every second in every direction with these explosions, almost at the speed of light from a single atom. You might have thousands or millions in your body of this stuff. Your body's response is to produce, no matter which species you are, to produce white blood cells to repair the damage and to attack the source. And attacks the source by building a sarcophagus around it because it's not from the solar system. The species bodies don't recognize what it is. So they attack it with white blood cells and build a tumor around it eventually. So you're continuously producing white blood cells. For every white blood cell, you're displacing a red blood cell, and the red blood cell carries oxygen and nutrition. So you just keep displacing them, there's a problem going to show up, right? Especially mental illness types problems. Okay. So the DNA interstrand cross-linked induced by ionizing radiation, an unsung lesion, no pun intended. I want you to think about how now we're going to go look detail of details kind of stuff. And so I want you to try to focus on that top sentence up there and the underlying names below it at the same time. So glance at the top part, which is a description of the study, and then glance as quick as you can at how many people, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 people in that particular study. Okay. So when we're walking through this, what you're going to just scan the first sentence up there, of the description rather, the synopsis. Don't worry about the abstract. And then, because you come back and watch it later, and then the names of the people, and because it's going to go really fast. So you got 1001, 1002, combating ionizing radiation exposures. Vitamin D protects salivary glands, dysfunction induced by ionizing. Dysfunction induced, right, in all the people. Radiation-induced cardiac diseases. Blah, 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 blah. They study every facet of everything. So they have studied everything, every species they can study on the planet, and every facet of the species. Their poop included, the bacteria, the fungus of the species. They study the duration and effects of that. I would imagine there's very little they don't know about radiation. They know it can't cure you or help you in the hospital. That's a guaranteed. That's not up for debate. So why are they doing it? And why is there silence in the academic community, which makes the equipment for the hospitals to do it to you? The universities, fresh students with a fresh idea, are making equipment to help kill the people in the hospital with radiation, the children, the women, and destroy the health and the integrity of the food chain. And they realize by the end of their college degree that they have to be a scumbag and a liar to get a job in the industry, and they just buy into it because the job is on the table now. If you're willing to do it and get the education, you got a job waiting for you, fulfilling these studies. And so they study every facet of the ecosystem. There's nothing they don't understand. You can always come back and slow this down and just have a quick, better glance at it. But the idea was to show you a big picture, like the worldwide radioactive fallout damage, then the Chernobyl damage all over, like, say, Europe and everything else. It certainly didn't stop there. And then the details, what they actually know in the hospitals, that it can't work because they produced a study showing it doesn't. So why are they still doing it? And then the details of the details, the minutiae of the minutiae, fact that they actually know it can't work, right? Because they understand the detail of this stuff so well. They've spent billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars. They're producing 4.3 million studies a year. The majority of them are like this, worldwide. And this is not 4.3 worldwide. We're just North America. We don't know what China's doing the same thing for sure. Russia doing the same thing for sure. Ukraine, everybody else that's pro-nuclear is doing the same thing. It's a big industry. It's a very influential industry, and it's controlling your universities. You captured that during the Manhattan Project. So you can't produce all of these studies and not understand the fact that nobody was cured in the hospital by it. And despite 80 years of claiming that the next one around the corner is going to be the solution, this could help treat cancer, when you caused the cancer in the first fucking place from radioactive fallout, that's wicked. And because you've never been held accountable, there's no incentive not to be evil. Actually, getting a master's class tonight on radiation fallout, and litigation opportunities for future generations come after these people. Aging and age-related health effects of ionizing radiation. They understand, they studied every facet of every species of all the flora, fauna, insects, mammals, animals, birds. They've studied it all in the context of radiation damage. So they can downplay it, and they can understand it and weaponize it. These are sadistic, twisted, and demented, and I've heard it, I've heard of evil, but there's nothing compares to the nuclear industry's version of evil. They've superseded all evil on the planet combined by many orders of magnitude. They know everything about everything in radiation. And they studied it from so many different institutions without access from the other institutions of the previous studies. So they have a consensus, paid for by the taxpayers, hid behind paywalls for their friends and foes, to be weaponized against humanity and the species. And they succeeded beyond their wildest dreams. Fukushima was a pulse event. It was guaranteed to happen. They built it with a 3,000-year legacy of tsunamis and massive earthquakes. And they built it within 70 kilometers of the tectonic plates, which is the same thing as building it on tectonic plates. And when you look at the damage across the country, it defies, and then the common knowledge that the prevailing winds will blow first to North America, which was the breadbasket for a lot of the planet of species of a protein. DNA damage induced by nitrous oxide. There's nothing they don't know. So why are they still so evil when they know there's no redeeming qualities to this? Anti-cancer drugs and ionizing radiation-induced DNA damage. Like, there's nothing they don't know. They're not naive. They're not even a little tiny bit gullible. They're incredibly educated and articulated, but they're dysfunctional as you can, and they hate you with a passion. They hate the species with a passion, and they hate you, and it's really obvious because they murder you in the hospitals with radiation, and they laugh about it. They keep telling you, oh no, we can give you this. There's no chemotherapy. Well, if it doesn't work, there's always radiation, and so it never works. So there's always radiation, and that's what they do next in desperation, because we blindly put our faith into a system that has been evil from its inception. There's nothing they don't know about it. Radiation-induced cognitive impairment. That's what we're seeing in the whales. That's what is showing up in places we've never seen it before. They have like a dementia-type illness from the radiation poisoning. Early radiographic changes in radiation bone injuries. And so you got, when the atoms in your body, let me finish that off, is pulsing energy every second. So because you're producing so many white blood cells, you're producing a hell of a lot less red blood cells, which carry oxygen nutrition. So you make stupid decisions you would normally never make. So you'll see there's heart problems, liver problems, lung problems, respiratory, pituitary, thyroid, adrenaline, Alzheimer's, dementia, autism, diabetes, Down syndrome, schizophrenias. And you got to realize that when your body's producing all of these white blood cells, now your immune system is compromised, so you're more susceptible to pathogens and viruses that were normally harmless and innocuous and benign are now catastrophic health consequences. And the system's counting on that. They're setting up pharmaceutical to keep you stable, not cure you, because there's no money in cure, but to try to keep you stable, even though you're still going to need all kinds of specialists and special that, which they happen to have developed just because they love you so much. Surgical treatment of radiation injuries at the colon and rectum. Surgical and radiation treatment of radiation injuries. So you need surgical treatment because you got radiation injuries of your colon and rectum. But don't worry, we'll figure it out at some point. When we finally cure cancer, somebody with cancer, we're going to put them in a glass transport truck and take them to every school on the planet and show them off. Summary of symposiums on acute radiation-induced injuries. I'm doing all this. I'm taking all the beatings because I knew that was come with the territory. It's okay. I don't mind it. I don't care what they say about me, what they do to me, as long as I destroy them ultimately. And the best way to do that is run an educational program, which we've been running for a very long time. And minimum the policies and makers and the investors have to watch this stuff, or at least read the transcript of it. And if you read the transcript of it, they're human, they'll watch. Because I'm not exactly... there's more information goes into your brain in one of these presentations / you can't call it a show because the show is entertainment, right? But we can't call it because it is entertainment to those who are in the know, who are looking for a bit of juice to quantify them justifying dedicating to torture in the nuclear industry. The management of the late radiation-induced rectal injury after treatment. The management of late radiation-induced rectal injury after treatment of carcinoma of the uterus. These people are actually insane, eh? Never cured anybody, but they butchered everybody. Worldwide in every hospital, every town. Well, radiation doesn't do it. Well, yeah, they're going to get... So you get radiation therapy for something, now you get radiation catastrophe throughout your whole body, rectum, your spines. Now, just to finish off, the atoms are in your body. So the problem is now, when you're eating it, consuming it, you're bioaccumulating it in a couple of bad places. One is going to be the thyroid, and which means you're producing radioactive hormones for the entire development of the species in humans. And it's going to be in your bones, which means you're producing radioactive stem cells. So radioactive hormones and radioactive stem cells for the entire development of all the species is what we've been watching post-Fukushima, and they're almost disappeared. And the ones that didn't are emaciated, like the whales. They're the last to go in the context of highly visible species. Radiation-associated cancer risk among injured children treated at different impaired wound healing, because impaired wound healing after radiation therapy. That's the strangest sentence imaginable, eh? Contamination of food in Czechoslovakia by Aceh, which is a British spelling. Chernobyl followed in Shakespeare Bay. Pregnancy outcome in Sweden after Chernobyl. They know every facet of the ecosystem, as I showed you. They know all the news. Excuse me. Transports of cesium, americium, plutonium isotopes. So it's found everywhere else worldwide, but they got to put a little bit of potassium in the fields and grow food there in Ukraine and Chernobyl. I get it. Okay. Finland's got hot areas everywhere, but right alongside the reactors, you can grow food and everything is good. Have a nice day. Yee-hoo, honey, we're getting a new swimming pool. Post-Chernobyl. So when you look at the bigger picture, what we just ran through, we're going by pretty quick because there's a lot of information. Uptake of radionuclides by plants. It's like suggesting you can mitigate the uptake of nuclides in a nuclear wasteland into the flora and fauna is criminal. It's absolutely, there's no way they should get funding. The people that did fund them should be arrested for misappropriation of funds. They should lose their degrees, have to pay restitution for the money that they falsely used for those studies. And they should be drummed out of the industry and even should be jailed. It shows up everywhere. It's in every species. And in the invertebrates. Yeah, all of them. And this is an incredible facet too. One of the things we noticed about the industry is wherever there's nuclear plants, they're doing sex ratio studies within 15 to 20 mile radius of the nuclear facility, dumps or whatever, because they know that in order to do human sex ratio studies, which is more males than females being born, which means less species, of course, because you don't have enough females reproducing anymore. The fact they're doing those studies, they know what they're doing, see? And the only way they can quantify to get the money to do the study is the fact that they know everybody within a proximity within the first year are going to be contaminated. Their homes, their windowsills, their utensils, their drinking water, their air, their filtration systems, and their vehicles and their homes. So they've studied every facet of the ecosystem. They absolutely run your planet. And they're hid away. People never see none of this stuff. Most people don't conceive that this is not even a percent of what I got. I got fuck all compared to what's out there. Determination of cesium. What about the biggest byproduct of radioactive fuel rod is curium isotopes, which happens to need 2 inches of lead compared to plutonium. Determination of cesium water system. Well, if it's in your water system is permanently contaminated. So it's everywhere. I'm not going to read these out. You can read them yourself. You can glance at them. I just want to make sure that you understand that this attacks every species. A single atom will ultimately end up in a cancer, in a tumor, in an autoimmune illness and disease and injury. There's nothing they don't know about it. They studied everything about it. And all I'm trying to show you, and we're just going to blast through the rest of it, all I wanted to make sure is you understood that they know. There's no illusions. The International Atomic Energy Agency, IRPA, UNSCLEAR, the IPRC, United Nations, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, they all know this is catastrophic to everything with replicating cells. There's nothing on the planet has an autoimmune trigger that can defend against it. And so it shouldn't exist. It's a biological weapon. It has every attribute of a biological weapon. And because it's the most important story in human history, and always will be. There'll never be a story more important than the annihilation of 8 million species. And this is what this is doing and accomplishing as we speak. It is, well, we got an 80-year jump on it. It has a pulse event 15 years ago with 36 reactor cores from 8 fuel pools and 4 buildings in Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant in Japan. There's nothing they don't know about this. So the question is, why are they murdering you in the hospital with it? Who are these creatures? Why do they think they have the right? It's criminal to poison you. By the way, it's not illegal to poison you with radiation. Parliaments, senates, and governments don't have the authority to make it illegal. Only the Nuclear Regulatory Commission in your country has the authority, and they're appointed every 4 years by each administration to make sure that never happens. If it does happen, the next administration will just redact it. They're completely unhinged. They have diplomatic immunity. You can't prosecute them. And they protected themselves with this kind of illegal. These are all illegal amendments to your constitutions, your Bill of Rights, your Magna Cartas. There's nothing they don't know about it. So why are they getting away with it? Because they've been at it for 80 years. They control your universities. They control your medias. Guess what? They control key positions throughout your government. And they can put the people in the positions of all the companies that are pro-nuclear. And that's the best way to keep the nuclear industry. The nuclear industry has to consume everything on the planet to survive. And it has to poison and destroy everything on the planet to survive. And it has to do it in complete secrecy. And then they buy off people, right? You do these studies, you got your name there on these studies, you're paying mortgages, you're paying for your vehicles, you're getting holidays, your children are going to the best schools. And the list is so long, right? If you do these studies and cover up for the industry will take care of you. All you got to do is go out and pretend you're special, and you tell your children you're very special, and you're in the nuclear industry, you're a big shot. And they can sneer at the other children in school because one day they'll grow up and be their bosses. Because my parents are pro-nuclear and you're scum. They have no illusions about what they're doing either. They bought into it. They're twisted and sick and demented and vicious and hateful. It's okay though, because that's who they are. They're malicious and malign and nasty and shameless and vile and disgusting. And they're actually weak and feeble and spineless and limp people. So these redacted pictures were released on the 10th year anniversary in January. The anniversary is March 11th each year, right? That red square over there is the common spent fuel pool. That's completely pixelated out. We suspect that was lost too. The reactor 3, when you watch the video, you'll find it online. The entire nuclear core, it wasn't just the core because the fuel pools are attached to the cores. So you're going to lose it all. And that's really evident in the video. That's exactly what you're looking at. We don't know it was a hydrogen explosion at reactor 3. No, that was a pressure explosion. And because of plutonium, it cooked off about 200,000 degrees hotter than normal meltdowns would. We don't know if it was a hydrogen. It tells the public it was because it's a speed game. No, it's a gamer, right? And the United Nations are twisted, sadistic, and they have the upper hand. They're incredibly funded by 195 countries every year.
Fukushima plant sits smack in the middle.
Sorry about that. Let me watch this one here. They're actually pretending they're up at working on reactor 4 superimposed. It's the only video out there where they do this, but
Fukushima plant sits smack in the middle of an underground aquifer. Deep beneath the ground, the site is rapidly being overwhelmed by water. Beneath the surface, water flows downhill and into the basement of the damaged reactor buildings. There it is contaminated with high levels of radiation. To stop the groundwater flowing on into the nearby ocean, engineers are building an underground barrier. But that is causing the groundwater level to rapidly rise. It's now so high the water will soon reach the surface. Then it will start flowing overground into the sea. This week, the company that owns Fukushima, TEPCO, made this disturbing admission.
We understand that this water discharge is beyond our control, and we do not think the current situation is good.
Outside experts say it's now clear TEPCO is incapable of handling the cleanup at Fukushima. It's time for the Japanese government to step in. The situation is already beyond what TEPCO can handle, he says. If it were possible to take proper measures, they would have done it already. It's not as if TEPCO is refusing to do what they can. They're doing everything they can, but there are no perfect solutions. Even if the government does step in, it's not clear what it can do. The only other solution is to pump out the contaminated groundwater and put it in storage tanks. But after just 2 years, the site is already jammed with more than 1,000 giant tanks. Most of them are already full up. At least 400 tons of new water pours into the site every day, and it's going to continue for years and years. Fukushima's water crisis has only just begun. Rupert Wingfield-Hayes, BBC News in Tokyo.
Seven people died on a single street in the first year in Fukushima City. Seven people on one street, a shopping street, dropped dead in the first year. There's other streets too, but I mean, this one made it out there. 7 people in a single street. Nothing got out. Nothing got out of these buildings. It's all in the 1,000 tanks, right? That were filled in 2013. That's when that video I just played for you was shot. So what they done here was they put these contraptions over it. And you never see this picture anywhere else with that debris there. That was getting lucky. We found a high-quality picture the mainstream media put out there. And after that, you couldn't download a picture from the Japanese official media again, even today. Criminal charges of promoters of nuclear power. Reactor 1 detonated and Reactor 3 detonated, highly visible. Officially, it never happened. Officially, both of those buildings are perfect. They got all the fuel out of it. Life is good. Okay, we're almost there. We almost got through the preamble. Hour and 20 minutes in, we're still doing the preamble. Killer whale dying along the Pacific coast, very sick, very emaciated. 2014. So this has been going on post-Fukushima for quite a while. Owls, hemorrhaging found dead, badly emaciated. As radiation sickness couldn't uptake nutrition because there had so much bioaccumulation of the original plume, which was fuel particulates. Pelicans starving since 2011. Killing baby birds for food. I know a few people might remember we went out doing a species check here on the East Coast, and I was live streaming. I started live streaming when I got close to the island that we were studying, and there was the seagulls were raising, and other birds were raising their fledglings on the cliff. And as we stream up, I go live, and I turn the camera live and zoom in. And the seagull comes in and grabs the baby and throws her off the cliff. It just comes in and lands on a random nest, I guess. Throws the baby off the cliff and goes down and starts eating the baby. I got this live on the live stream. It's the most wildest thing we ever seen until the next day we went out and we had a seagull that was killing young puffins and other species that were raising their fledglings and was smashing their heads with their beak. It was horrific. Mass death of sea lions and dolphins and birds, brain-rotting toxins. Yeah, it turns out this was Fukushima radioactive fallout. Big decline in Alaska caribou, mortality very high, because you know what caribou eat, right? The stuff that bioaccumulates to huge particulates that were falling out. Giant whales found dead up and down the Pacific Northwest coast, 2015. Baffled over surge, 25 carcasses reported in the past month. Definitely a pulse of death. Exceptional rare to see a dead humpback pre-Fukushima. Exceptionally rare, yeah. Now there should be at least 2 or 3 on every beach when they die. If not, there's something wrong. How come there's not 2 or 3 emaciated whales on that beach? I don't understand it. If there's one there must be a couple more close by. We better send the boys up in the helicopter. Check out the next beach. Continuous trends of whales washing ashore, animals sick, starving, emaciated, too weak to swim, hemorrhaging, 2015. 0 babies survived on the island, usually over 15,000. Birds in such bad condition, extremely poor breeding. They didn't even try. There's no food there to feed the babies, right? There's 46 million birds are supposed to be raising their fledglings worm too. And last week we covered 2 trips, about 170, 200, and 240 kilometers, and didn't see anything, nothing. They're supposed to be here for months to raise their fledglings like they have been doing for tens of millions of generations. Marine mammals all along the California coast, all along the whole coast of North America, with parasites extremely emaciated. Carts filled with emaciated dead bodies of baby sea lions. And it goes on and on and on. Babies being found severely emaciated. That's sea lions and seals. Unprecedented, largest animals on Earth found dead on the West Coast, sick, very, very emaciated. Food supply being killed off. Hey, that's what they're saying today, right? Food supply is being choked off. It's 2015. Mind-blowing die-off of seabirds on their way from California to Alaska. This was the common MERS. We were out doing research expeditions 4, 5, 6 months a year during this period for 6 years. Mind-blowing die-off of seabirds on their way from California to Alaska. This was the common MERS and the Cassini auklets. The common MERS dive 600 feet all day, and they feed on anchovies, squid, and sardine, and krills, the small squid species that are feeding on the phytoplankton, the zooplankton, and that. The basis of the food chain, the oxygen chain, the carbon sequestering chain. Every bird we've seen is starving to death. The worst they've ever seen, says the experts. Unprecedented, baffling. Starving. Every bird they've seen is starving to death. 100% death rates of the baby seals on the California coast. None have survived. Many are starving. Extremely thin. All sorts of illnesses and infections. Milkless moms. The problem's getting worse. Unprecedented die-off, nearly endangered marine mammals. More have washed up in the last few months during all of recorded history combined. 2015, alarm raised on the West. So we've been documenting this for a very long time post-Fukushima. And pre-Fukushima is never, as we have the evidence, we never seen any of these attributes. Now entire coast is being affected, whole population getting hit hard. It's a real shock to us. Animals of all ages are sick, not only newborns. Entire populations, entire coasts, rather, is being affected. Walking skeletons, so hungry they gone on rocks. Well, the rocks are empty. Right, the rocks would normally have all kinds of algae and kelps and mussels or barnacles or some kind of nutrition there that they can get enough energy then to excrete the rocks after. Countless did, but there's nothing on the rocks. The rocks are Hello, James. How's it going, buddy?
Mr. Dana.
Give me a second there. Yeah, well, we got James calling in for a rare show tonight. Go ahead, James. You still there, buddy?
Still got me?
Yeah. I had you. Yeah, go ahead. Hello? You still there? That was weird. Give us a call back, James. I'll be ready to start. Okay, try again, buddy. Sorry.
Yeah. That was weird.
It was, and the way it ended on my line was even weirder. I never heard a phone call end like that before. How weird is that?
It just, who knows? I mean, I'm sure this call's being monitored by the, what is it, the Operation Long Jump Division? Chicago Division?
Chicago Division. I got to move away from the microphone. Go ahead. I turned you up a bit.
You know, what finds what's so fucking weird about that is that Calm Down Charlie calls from Chicago, which is exactly where Tokyo rose after the war ended up. So he literally might be related. Like, it's like crazy. but I just wanted to call. But so this week, you know, I want to just bring up, I've been like watching all the announcements, and they got their final, you know, originally they're going to be like, we're going to have 15 microreactors go critical by July 4th. And then at some point, the secretary was like, well, at least 3. Like, they changed the mission, like, by November, I think, of last year. So, here we are, and they got those 2, they got 2 that went critical in the dome without, it's just some BS test. Like, they made such a big deal out of it. All these investors are watching this. They're like, and all the investors are waiting. They're like, well, the DOE's got the forts. We're going to see if they can do it. Like, this is like some kind of achievement or something. It's like, you got to be kidding me. So they are just going hardcore. And I'm sure they're listening to this because you're the only source of truth out there. I thought, I'm going to call in and just go off about this week because they I don't know if you know this, but the NRC, they're like burning stuff. They're like just going crazy, ripping out regulations.
That's right. That's right. I got
they totally
7
got rid
stories
of
on today. I got a whole folder on that today.
And I'm just like, you know, Laura is stupid anyway. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, that's why I named the band after that, because I thought it was funny. But
I forgot how loud my voice was. Sorry about that, folks. Go ahead.
But the fact that they're just pushing forward with this, like, you know what? It just reminds me, there's this great sample in the 70s when they did documentaries, and there was like this attitude by the pro-nuclear crowd. They're like, you know, we're just going to toughen up the community. We're just going to be like, you either going to have to accept higher background levels or freeze to death. You know, like, and so now they're just like, you know what?
It's true, though. What he's saying is true, folks. That's the craziness.
It's nuts. So they're hoping they can get away with this because, again, there's no pushback. They censor you all day long. Only a few people get to watch you that know what's going on. Like, the only people that watch your show on a regular basis have any idea what the hell's going on.
That's fact, yeah.
Like, we all joke about COVID and everything, but we all know what's going on. I mean, come on. They picked the anniversary. How did they pick the holy day?
It was meant to displace it so you have a new anniversary on the anniversary.
It's to drive people like us crazy. Like, you guys are just laughing in
I remember when it happened. Yeah, I remember when it happened.
You know?
Those people don't remember that.
Like,
Yeah.
But that's why we try to bring up, Dr. Ernest J. Sternglass, because if he was alive today, he'd be on your show agreeing with everything you're saying. This is why does this happen? I mean, it'd be like...
He'd be blowing our mind. Yeah, he'd be blowing our mind.
It'd be amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, if we had a real true academic come on board that can talk the talk and walk the walk and was willing to walk the walk, this industry would be goosed. Right?
It's just it's getting so ridiculous. It's getting so ridiculous. And here we are with the whales.
Yeah, it's crazy, boy. Where we're at now.
And it's not. We don't know. I mean, how long do the whales have left? Really? I mean, do we have any idea? I mean, this is where the research.
I don't know.
This is why it matters so much. If there could be just someone out there who blows $5 million a week on whatever to just toss us some money here, so we can get out there with some.
If we get started, it'll be self-sufficient, right? If we can get a jump out.
Getting the research, all we need to do, they know how to communicate with the whales. We just listen for one thing. If we hear anything, that's a good sign. But then we take out their recordings, feed it into AI. What the hell's going on? They know all this shit now. They mapped it all out.
Yeah.
So we just have to do the work. That's all it is now. It's all just doing the work. And it's just so frustrating that this is going on. And there's nobody out there doing it. And we're aware of it.
Like if I had a couple of outboard motors, my boat's been in Alaska 6 times. The motor's shot. I need a couple of outboard motors. If I was out there just doing that's hell for them, right?
But it just, you brought up the gulls.
Yeah.
Like I swear, I get triggered every time you're out in the middle of nowhere, just you alone, and there's that dead bird floating for how knows long.
His head popped
it had
open.
tumors all over its head.
Yeah. That one too, James.
Remember that?
Yeah. That was so wild, man. There was more than one. There was like 5 or something. And it was different species.
There's no better content than that. That is the best content on YouTube by far.
And we still got that documentation there somewhere.
Anyway, I just, this week was crazy. I just wanted to call in and chime in.
I appreciate it. That was great, actually, yeah. No, I'm going to
get back to work. But great show again. Great.
Get back to work.
Love you so much, Dana.
Love you, buddy.
Love you so much.
Yeah, love you so much too. Yeah, thank you, James. Okay, my friend. Yeah, bye. That's James Lucid. That's the music, man. Mr. Music. I'm not saying it in a bad way. It's fantastic that anybody can do what he done, and he's the first person in history to do it, and it works, man. That song we started off with. You tell me that's not fantastic. You can't, right? I'm a music connoisseur my whole life, and so good is good, and that's it. And it's weaponized against the industry. That's the best way to look at it, because it's a story. It's an education for the kids that are listening to it and the people that are listening to it. Everybody below 25 is a kid to me. That don't mean they are, but excuse me. Let's keep trying here. We're almost through this part, and then we should be to the whales. Not too far away. We've got 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. 35 clicks to go. Let's get after it. Because this is the preamble to tonight's story about emaciated whales. Our 2-hour show, we're 1 hour and 30 minutes into the preamble. We still haven't got to the stories. This is part 1, I guess, officially at this stage. Countless dead birds reported on the Pacific off the U.S. West Coast. Nothing will eat their bodies on top of that. So you had the common murres, which dive 600 feet all day, and they feed on anchovies and squid and sardines and krill, stuff like that, and they take it back to their fledglings. And then you had Cassini auklets, which are microscopic feeders. They eat the phytoplankton, the zooplankton, the basis of the food chain, the basis of the oxygen chain, the basis of the planet, right? 50% of the oxygen on the planet. And so 2 different spectrums of the food chain showing up emaciated at the same time. I was out doing research expeditions at this time. Just let me touch that for 1 second, in case you're not familiar with that, I'll just give you a 1 minute flash of that stuff. So we went from Vancouver, British Columbia to Alaska for 6 years after massive radioactive fallout, and the harm that I'm showing you is documented. The damage, so we spent 6 years, 4, 5, 6 months a year doing research expeditions in 27,000 islands, and all the species we're finding were full of tumors. There wasn't very many left. Everything was deformed and disfigured, if it was there at all. This is right by Alaska, so we had some algae for a change. Not many. I mean, the 700 algae, there's only 5 species that we found on the whole coastline that survived at that point. But they were fading fast at the end of it in 2019. So to your left are the species that were supposed to be on the coastline on every island. Should look like that. And it's all naked. So we went back for the 5 extra years to see if the species to your left recovered. They didn't recover. And long, hard, difficult days, to say the least. This was a typical day, looked like. And we spent years, 4, 5, 6 months a year, doing the research expeditions, and the species to your left are exterminated. The species didn't recover. Right, the species did not recover. And I'm pretty methodical, so I just took my time, those 27,000 islands, 4, 5, 6 months a year. The species didn't come back, so that's an extinction event. Salmon covered in fungus, red lesions, so there's lots of reports. I was on the ocean when all this stuff was getting reported on, right? Not the whole year, but most of the prime year were safe to be out there. Not that it was ever safe to be out there. And there's so much documentation. Let's go back. Oh yeah, we are back. There's so much documentation of the mysterious die-off, so to speak. Anyway, we'll get back to where we left off. There we go. I don't know what I'm doing now. Oh yeah, okay, we already covered everything I wanted to cover. All right, so let's get after the stories tonight. Still got 20 minutes left. There was 865,000 extra cancers in the first year. 865,000 extra cancers in the first year. Not everybody got health care. I'm sorry, that's so loud, eh? I'm an idiot. My apologies for having the volume up so loud. I was talking fairly low, so hopefully it wasn't too distorted on your end. I don't know how James's audio turned out with the volume up that loud. I turned it up pretty loud that time. Hopefully that came out good. There was pretty funny stuff there. And serious. All right, back here. Fin whale washed up in UK beach with a punctured lung was hit by a ship. You mean the emaciated whale that washed up on the beach was hit by a ship? Let me get the good picture here. You can see by his lower body. They're the greyhounds of the sea, right? But its organs area is blown up a bit from decomposition, right? But its back part of the body, there's no weight there at all, maybe 1.5 tons. And this is the second biggest whale on the planet. Right, that's Starvation. It bloated a bit in the front, but you can see the deformity. You can see the peanut head starting to show up. You can definitely see the body deformity. You can see the organs expansion from the decay of gases. But back by the tail, you can see the flat tail. It's blatant. You can see the fins of the vertebrates back there. So funny. And they don't give you a lot of good pictures, and they take lots. They always give you the pictures that is hardest to make your own determination. Stranded humpback whale safely returned to the sea. It was safely returned to this emaciated, frighteningly emaciated whale, with the rib cage protruding, the spine blatantly evident and poignant, the peanut head, the shoulder blade sticking up. This is Starvation. Particularly the tail gives it away, and the peanut head and the shoulder blades, right? It's blatantly, and look at the rib cage poked right out. Holy crap. It don't even look like a humpback whale. It looks like a humpback whale skeleton. Could hear the thuds of the humpback whale thrashing its tail flukes in an attempt to maneuver itself off the... No, it didn't go up to the beach accidentally. It went up there on purpose to die. It was starving to death. It couldn't float anymore. It couldn't keep... It doesn't have any buoyancy. It doesn't have any blubber or fat or muscle to keep it buoyant. That's why they're all showing up. That's why they're getting into entanglements along the coastline. That's not part of their migratory route. They're going there because they're trying to find a beach that they can get up on. Most of the coastline don't have those attributes. So they have to travel along the coastline looking for a spot where they can swim up. And lobster pots and nearshore fishery markers become a problem at that point. When your rib cages are pointed out and your entire back section is maybe 0.5 ton, you're not looking for food. You're looking for a place to die. You can't keep your blowhole out of the water anymore. You can't get any rest because you don't have any buoyancy. And this is desperation to go up on the beach and labor for a period of time until you finally die because you don't have any nutrition in your body whatsoever. And you have radiation sickness. Your body should be taken to a nuclear dump. The body is radioactive. Whatever's left there is hideously radioactive, concentrated radioactivity. It's impossible for it not to be, right? Fast Thinker says James was clear as a bell. I turned the volume right up because I've noticed on the last show before that I should have turned the audio up more because he's on a phone in the weird angles. This microphone, right, should be able to handle that. So I went for it. I'm pretty sure it was going to work. Fukushima bioaccumulation is turning whales radioactive. Should whale carcasses be treated as nuclear waste? Well, yeah. That's what they are, Dana, nuclear waste. Nasty censorship tonight, a bit. I knew that anyway when I started the show. I was putting the show together, I was like, yeah, well, this is not going to help. The whale, which was in moderate condition. This is not moderate condition. This is starvation. The rib cage are extended right out of the body. There's no meat on the rib cage hardly. Right there. Same with those 26 killer whales when they done the necropsy 2 weeks later. Right, the skin was peeled back. There was no blubber whatsoever. There was nothing there, just skin, and the rib cage never had any meat on it. It was crazy. I bought a big box of ginger, like this big, man. Probably this high, right by, that wide. It's a lot of ginger. And so that's in all of my teas. They are my tea now, is ginger tea. Yeah, and drink it. I'm sipping it all day long. Ginger is magic, eh? It's important. It's an important countermeasure for your body. The whale, which was, and all I'm doing is just taking slices in the bottom of the cup and adding a tea bag, right? And then I have a hot plate where it stays there for a couple of hours, and so it's always simmering through that stuff. So you're not going to drink all of it because it's there for a couple of hours, but you're exposed to it every day, a lot of it. It's so good for parasites in your body. 4 sperm whales die in Indonesia beach rescue. Look how sharp their bodies are. That is insanity. You can see they're all emaciated. Every one of them, eh? I think there's 8 there. But see how sharp their spines are? And deformed? You can see that sperm whale right here, the body's totally deformed. But look how sharp the... So that story is here. I'm talking about. I gotta back up. 4 sperm whales die in Indonesia beach rescue. So the rest of them got back out to sea, but they would have died because they're severely emaciated. Look how sharp. That's bizarre for a sperm whale. Right? It doesn't look nothing like a sperm whale. The big head, right? You can see it over in that one over there. But because their vertebrates are just sticking right out of their bodies, the fins on it, right? It's bizarre. And what year was that again? 2017. I was out on the ocean during that. Let me double check here. Yeah, I was out on the ocean doing research expeditions. And they all eventually died. The other 6 whales were helped back out to sea. How do you help a sperm whale of all whales back out to sea? You don't. They tried, don't get, bless their hearts. Look at the vertebrae on his tail sticking up in the air. That is crazy. Let me bring it up. Look at that. That is crazy. It's crazy how emaciated he is. And imagine, like, some of these people got hurt and pretty injured, eh? So bless their hearts. Bless their hearts for trying. It's amazing that they done that. The whales were trying to die. You can actually see how bad shape they are. And just looking at his tail is like, what? Poor animal. And you can start to see the peanut head in some of them when you get... I'm trying to extract it from a video to quantify what I'm looking at, but as soon as I see the sharp edges now, I can spot it in the worst pictures now. I've been doing it for so long, unfortunately. Right, the hallmarks are, right, the keystone signatures always stands out like a terrible, terrible sore thumb. And we've never seen that pre-Fukushima, nothing like it. Anything we're seeing, everything is post-Fukushima. It's an extinction event, like my research, little tiny bit I showed you. Clearly, but I was out there for 6 years. The species didn't recover. They didn't come back. The ocean is permanently broken now. And the nuclear industry done it to us, and they hid it away successfully again. It's a lesson for them because they never experienced nothing like it before, right? They're rolling it. It's pretty crazy what they done there. Lucky some of them never got killed. These are huge animals, man. Oh, let me go back. You can see the spine sticking right up like sore thumbs. Look at that one right there. Holy shit, eh? That weird right? Where the spine stands up and then the rib cages are protruding out. So the spine is right here where my forehead is to. Then the rib cages are out and where my wrists are to. Right, all the way out. That is crazy, right? It's supposed to be a symmetrical, right? There's not supposed to be like a sharp. There's spine fins sticking straight up are just wow. That's really, and the same one with that up there. Even though these shitty screen captures and everything else, they're blatant evident on all of this stuff anyway. And of course, I'm going to read every story I can find because I want to be wrong. But that first picture I showed you, right, of the vertebrae on the back part of the whale, right, there's 15,000 pounds missing back there. They're not usually found in waters less than 1,000 feet deep, for areas 2 times deeper or more. It's unclear why the whales swam so close to shore because they couldn't float anymore and they were desperate. So they were searching for answers after an unusual whale stranding. So up until Fukushima, we never seen none of this, and you always see these connotations. Look at the rib cage sticking up in the air. Look how thin the back part is. That is just hideous. I have no idea where I'm to. Must be back here somewhere. And so look at your tail way back here, then look up, you can see basically behind Buddy, right? There's no meat in between it. But what you're looking at up there is the rib cages sticking up in here all by themselves. A team of veterinarians look at it, took samples. You can see the peanut head on the where the hell am I? I lost track of where I'm to. Am I? It's got to be way down past all it is. Yeah, right down here somewhere. Right, that's right. My apologies here. An unusual series of whale stranding started concern in Indonesia with 3 of the massive mammals beached on Bali since the start of April 2023. A 36 bride's whale found on the beach, April 1st. And then last Wednesday, a live sperm whale, 59 feet, was found stranded on the beach, which was, this one, severely emaciated. And the most recent event took place with the wake of the carcass of a 56 sperm whale. Part of water phenomenon has seen 21 unexplained whale strandings across Indonesia since the start of the year. I have so much of this starvation now. You can see the peanut head on that one. Mass die-off whales in the Atlantic is being investigated. And this is skinny as a rake, eh? It's got less than 4 inches of blubber, so it's emaciated. A dead humpback whale, 2017. Part of an unusual mortality event. Humpback whales have been dying in extraordinary numbers along the eastern seaboard since the beginning of last year, 2026. Marine biologists have a term for it, an unusual mortality event. One said, the doctor said, the number of whale stranding was alarming 2017, 2016 included. Focus on ocean health as dolphin death soars. Now we've been seeing dolphins and seals and sea lions, manatees showing up in catastrophic condition. First turned up along the coast, New Jersey in June, and then in Virginia, the Carolina, Georgia, and Florida. So far this year, 1,000 bottlenose dolphins, 8 times the regular, which is regular post-Fukushima only, not pre-Fukushima. Marine mammals are good sentinels for the ocean and human health, and they really act like the proverbial canaries in a coal mine. That's what we've been saying for 15 years. I've puzzled scientists, have I? Well, if I puzzle them, then they're not scientists. How can we figure this out and they can't? How can they not even mention it ever? Not even disprove it ever? It's alarming when you see so many different die-offs of marine mammals going on at once. So many different species, it's like it. And juvenile grey whale. Now look at this whale. Look at that picture. Holy shit. That's the rib cage is sticking out. Hang on, I'll bring it down a little lower for you. That is so messed up. So that's the rib cage, or that's the spine. The fins on the spine. That's the rib cage. That's the... I'll just back up a little bit, I guess. The peanut head is so blatant. It's just heartbreaking to look at. The rib cage is just out on each side, and then this like little concave. So it was born probably healthy, but it never had no mother couldn't produce any milk. It was already suffering from radiation poisoning before it was born. When it was born, because of the bioaccumulation, right, and the way it's transferred, we know through milk. You could have sent you. The whale is death stage starvation. It's just a 2-year-old or something, and that's what we've seen a lot of them. We see a lot of those that kind of shape. I'm surprised. There it is. You can see everything just starting to stand out. Maybe this picture. There you go. That's a holy shit picture right there. That's like, oh yeah. That's gruesome. That's as gruesome as they get right there. And there's so many of these whales. It's got to be your tin cans and pop bottles, though. It can't be nuclear. They're too clean and green. And so, back up. Look at that. Holy gee. It washed back out to sea, I think. Look at the spine indentations. That's the rib cage. There's like a shelf goes into the spine and then it goes straight up. The peanut head is just, it's only a skeleton. Organs and skin. It's totally starved to death. And we're seeing this symmetrical in the species. That I was trying to get a good picture because the whale's also moving at the same time. Once I start seeing a little bit of a shape, then at least I said, okay, well I can say now with certainty that whale starved to death. Because you know it's going to be there if you get. They're not generally going to give you the best flattery or the best look of an emaciated whale. They're going to try to get a low angle or something where you don't see the peanut head as pronounced, or 24 foot long and fairly thin. No, it's not fairly thin. That's a skeleton that was swimming around in your ocean with skin and organs. So we didn't know that whales could actually survive that long. No one postulated that this could happen, right? Except the industry knew it was going to happen by all those studies I showed you earlier. And I showed you a lot. I probably showed you a little bit too much, but I think it was necessary to tell the story. Young whale washes up on La Jolla Beach. Even in this picture, you can see the brutal peanut head, the shoulder blades, the rib cage is protruding, the spinal column sticking up. And they'll be gone. The gray whales will be gone this year. There can't be more than 600. Because when you use the typical scale at 122 plus by May the 22nd, of just gray whales, not counting all the other species, just gray whales, that's 1,342, because you got to multiply it by 11, because for every one you find, there's 10 more sink at sea. Now, they were healthy whales, so now you got to take the final number of 1,342 and multiply it by 2.4, because these are not healthy whales we're talking about anymore. So the disappearance and the die-off is so blatant. To not do that is simply not acceptable. So now you're talking 3,200 to 3,600 in the first 6 months of this year, just along the American coastline. The whales don't only go to the American coastline to die, right? They die all over the place. And because none of them are no longer healthy, then you can't use the traditional scale of for everyone you find 10 died at sea and sank. Now you have to assume it's at least 2.4 times higher than that, or 2.10, or 3.5 times higher, or whatever. I'm assuming there's 600 left because of what we're seeing and the conditions we're seeing them in. But I'll concede there could be 2,000 left, but they're so emaciated. They weren't, in 2019, 2020, 2021, that's when they weren't finishing the migratory route with, the babies weren't surviving the migratory, the first year of the migratory return trip to Baja, California. And so last year, for instance, they weren't even making it to the Baltic Sea, right, for the so-called feeding grounds, because they were so emaciated. They were dying everywhere, including 2018, they started showing up in San Francisco Bay. That's so far off their migratory path, it's not funny. And so that was, you're talking about thousands of whales, and some of them went in there because it's just like they have dementia or something. Well, it is. That's what radiation sickness basically is. Right after Fukushima, we've seen, just ask your hairdressers, already seen an increase of dementia. No, I lost my sister a few weeks ago to dementia, and my brother last year, and I got another one now he's with Alzheimer's, and that don't run in our family, right? And that's the Fukushima effect, and we're seeing that. You ask the hairdressers, are they seeing an increase in their patients with Alzheimer's, dementia, or children with autism and Down syndrome? And they'll be like, girl, we were just talking about that. What's in the stomach, how fat it is, what are the blubber layers like? Like, these are lunatics, these people claiming that there's something in the stomach of these emaciated animals. Like, they're lunatics to look at that and then say, well, we need to do a necropsy to see what's in his stomach. And it's meant to dumb down those who don't understand any part of the equation, because right, their whole survival is based upon keeping people incapable of critical thinking. Okay, that's it. What's in the stomach, how fat it is, and what are the blubber layers like? How can you even suggest that's part of the equation in that animal, see? I'm going to have to we got so much new stuff, we got so much old stuff, we got so much stuff we've already covered. I'd like to do a recap in the next week or two of the stuff we just covered in the last few months, of just the craziest stories, and shorten it down to just the blatant stuff, right? It'll take you weeks to get through that. We cover so much now of emaciated whales, of every species. But there you go. That's less than 2 months ago. It was April this year. That's a gray whale, what's left of it. Like a new species. It doesn't look like a gray whale. It's the most bizarre looking thing imaginable. Like if I walked up to it, I know it's a gray whale, but the average person walks up to it, they're not going to be, even like fishery officers, marine biologists, they'll be like, I don't know what the hell it is. It's a whale, I think. Something. The first impressions are going to be total loss. Unfortunately for those who are here regularly, it's not. We know what we're looking at, and that is the Jekyll and Hyde now of the nuclear industries. That's the end of it, see? They'll be gone this year. Hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully there's a couple can suffer into next year. I don't really mean that, of course. What have I got done? I screwed up something. Oh. Gotta be that one right there. Hugs for Colette. She donated 270, almost 280 rather. And so that's a big deal. We have 2 donations in a row. And we haven't done anything down here, basically. Yesterday was Canada Day. I didn't realize it till in the evening. I was like, oh crap, it's Canada Day. I'm still going to go ahead and do a schedule, but it's just, there was too much noise going on. It distracts me, right? I can't do it. See everybody on the next show. There's not a show, I guess. I call it a show, but even though a show is supposed to be entertainment. I guess this is entertainment if you hate the nuclear industry as much as I do. This is a version of I'm getting away with a few laughs I noticed yesterday and today, which is pretty cool because I've been sick for 2 weeks. And summer just showed up. It's not all here yet. The forest fires are right around the corner. Forest fires normally come late after the end of summer, right? Now we get them in spring. We're in so much trouble. We're in so much trouble because of Fukushima radioactive fallout. Let me just sort this out. I need some rocker to go out on. How about I play the same artist, the gentleman who called in earlier. Sanctions for vodka. Such a crazy beat. And the song we started off with, links are in the description, which you'll find in my playlist, Did I Sell Secrets to Pakistan? You'll find it in the anti-nuclear music in my playlist. That'll take you to the original site. And just, right now I'm only worried about getting healthy again, so I can try to salvage the summer. It's still not really here yet, so heavy times for this planet are right on our doorstep. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out over the next year or two. The death of the whales is definitely not going to be able to keep hiding that as the fabled climate change. It's not going to work. It doesn't work for the equation. Radioactive fallout breaking the food chain post-Fukushima fits perfect. This is called Sanctions for Vodka, Not Nuclear. Have a great day. Hugs for everybody. See everybody on the next show. Extra hugs for Colette and James. Have a great night, everybody. This song just builds and builds, man. It's fantastic.
They said because of war, because of wreckage in Ukraine, because Moscow must be answered, because there must be pain. So vodka took the penalty to make example, while civil nuclear carried on by separate category. Vodka refused, uranium cleared, Russia condemned, civil atoms spared. Sanctions for vodka, not nuclear, that is where it parts. Sanctions for vodka, not nuclear, Russia gets the sanction. Nuclear slips on past. They said no common trade, no comfort from that side. Yet yellow cake enrichment fuel are bypassed and allowed on through. Existing works, civil plants received what they required. One crate held at customs, one reactor chain state supplied. Spirits held back, reactor freight through. War in the wording, nuclear exemption in view. Sanctions for vodka, not nuclear, that is where it parts. Sanctions for vodka, not nuclear, Russia gets a sanction. Nuclear slips by as essential. After sanction, project carve-out still alive. Packs 2 under special handling, while all else tightens shut. One rule for tavern goods, one rule for reactor freight, one rule for public sanction, one rule for what they weigh. Call it civil, call it existing, call it continuity. Spirits refused, uranium welcome, that's the discrepancy. Russia denounced nuclear trade allowed, that is where it splits apart. What they forbid for common optics, they let uranium pass untouched. Sanctions for vodka, not nuclear, that is where it parts.